Captain Kang Tae stood on the bridge of the research vessel and watched the stars. His ship, the Horizon's Edge, floated in the darkness near the edge of explored space. For 3 months, his crew had been studying strange energy readings in this sector. Nobody expected anything dangerous. This was supposed to be a simple science mission. "Captain, I'm picking up something unusual," said Dr. Yuna Park. She was the chief science officer and the smartest person Tae had ever met. Her fingers moved quickly across her console. "There's a signal. It repeats every 6 hours." Tae walked over to her station. "Natural or artificial?" Yuna's face went pale. "Artificial. Definitely artificial." The bridge went quiet. Lieutenant Hyun Soo, the communications officer, stood up from his chair. "Sir, if this is artificial, that means—" "First contact," Tae finished. His heart raced. Humanity had searched for alien life for centuries. Now they might have found it. "Can you decode it?" "I'm working on it," Yuna said. Her hands shook slightly as she worked. "The mathematics are complex, but there's definitely a pattern here." For 2 days, the crew worked without rest. Yuna barely left her station. She drank coffee and stared at screens filled with numbers and symbols. Hyun helped her, running translation programs and comparing the signal to every language pattern in human records. Tae watched them work and felt excitement mixed with fear. Something about this signal felt wrong. On the 3rd day, Yuna called everyone to the bridge. Her face looked tired and worried. "I've decoded it," she said quietly. "You need to see this." The main screen lit up with text. Tae read it and felt his blood turn cold. "This is a message from the Dominion sphere. You have entered our protected territory without permission. This is a violation of our laws. You will remove all human vessels from this region within 10 cycles. If you do not obey, we will destroy every human world. This is your only warning." The bridge was silent. Tae read the message again, hoping he had misunderstood. But the words were clear. "There's more," Yuna said. She pressed a button and the screen changed. Now it showed coordinates. Tae recognized them immediately. They were human colonies. Earth, Mars, New Terra, Haven's Gate, 12 worlds in total, each marked with a red symbol. "They know where we live," Hyun whispered. "They've been watching us." The final part of the message appeared. It was a countdown timer. 10 cycles. In human time, that meant about 23 days. Tae's mind raced. "Send everything to Earth Command. Highest priority. And get me Admiral Jin on secure channel." While Hyun worked, Tae looked at the countdown on the screen. 23 days. After that, war. Or extinction. The response from Earth took 6 hours. Admiral Jin Choi's face appeared on the screen. He was an old man with gray hair and hard eyes. He had fought in the Mars Rebellion and earned his rank through blood and fire. "Captain Tae, I've read your report," Jin said. His voice was calm, but Tae could hear the anger underneath. "The Unified Earth Council is meeting now, but I need to know something. In your professional opinion, is this threat real?" Tae thought about his answer carefully. "Admiral, 3 of our deep space monitoring stations went silent 2 days ago. No warnings, no distress signals. They just stopped transmitting. I think these aliens are showing us what they can do." Jin nodded slowly. "That's what I thought. Stand by, Captain. Keep monitoring that signal. If anything changes, you tell me immediately." The Admiral's face disappeared from the screen. Tae turned to his crew. They all looked scared. He didn't blame them. On Earth, the Unified Earth Council gathered in their Great Hall. Hundreds of representatives from every human world and colony sat in curved rows. Admiral Jin stood at the center and told them about the alien message. Some people shouted in anger. Others wanted to negotiate. A few suggested surrendering immediately. Commander Bora Lim stepped forward. She ran military intelligence and knew more secrets than anyone alive. "We need to consider the evidence," she said. Her voice cut through the noise like a knife. 3 monitoring stations destroyed. No debris, no survivors. These aliens can track us across light years. They know our locations. They've probably been watching us for years. How is that possible?" Someone shouted. "We would have detected them, would we?" Bora asked. "Our sensors are designed to look for ships like ours. What if their technology is completely different? What if they've been sitting out there the whole time, invisible to our instruments?" A representative from New Terra stood up. "We should negotiate. We can't fight an enemy we know nothing about." "And if they're not interested in negotiation?" Bora replied. "What if this ultimatum is their negotiation? Surrender or die. Those are our only choices." The debate went on for hours. Finally, Admiral Jin had heard enough. He stood up and his presence filled the room. Everyone went quiet. "I'm going to tell you something," Jin said. His voice was hard and cold. "I fought on Mars during the rebellion. I saw cities burn. I watched good people die. And you know what I learned? Bullies don't stop when you give them what they want. They just ask for more." He walked to the center of the chamber. "These aliens think we'll run. They think one threat is enough to make us abandon our homes. But they don't know humans. They don't know our history. We fought each other for thousands of years. We survived wars that nearly destroyed our planet. We climbed out of the ashes every single time." "What are you saying?" asked the council president. "I'm saying we don't run," Jin said. "Not from aliens. Not from anyone. If they want our worlds, they'll have to take them. And I promise you, we'll make them pay for every inch." The vote was taken. 87 members voted to reject the alien demands. 13 voted to surrender. The decision was made. Back on the horizon's edge, Tay received new orders. His ship would stay in position as bait. The human fleet was mobilizing. Every warship, every fighter, every weapon humanity possessed was being prepared for war. "Sir, what do we tell them?" Hyun asked. "The aliens are waiting for our response." Tay thought for a moment. Then he smiled. It was not a happy smile. "Tell them this, we decline." "Come and try." Yuna looked at him. "Captain, that's going to make them angry." "Good," Tay said. "I want them angry." Angry people make mistakes. The message was sent across all frequencies. Somewhere out in the darkness, the aliens received it. Tay imagined their surprise. They probably expected humans to beg or bargain. Instead, they got defiance. The countdown continued. 20 days. 19. 18. Earth's military worked day and night. Ships that had been in dock for repairs were rushed back into service. Civilian vessels were armed with whatever weapons could be fitted. Mining ships loaded their holds with explosives. If this was going to be humanity's last fight, they would make it count. Tay watched his crew prepare. They were scared, but they didn't quit. That was the human way. Scared but stubborn. Outmatched but unwilling to surrender. On the 10th day, sensors detected something. Massive distortions in space at the edge of the system. Something big was coming through faster than light travel. "They're early," Hyun said. "They want to catch us unprepared," Tay replied. "Battle stations. This is it, the aliens were coming, and humanity was ready to burn." The alien fleet emerged from the darkness like nightmares made real. 73 ships appeared around the horizon's edge in perfect formation. Each vessel was enormous, bigger than anything humans had ever built. Their hulls were smooth and black, like they had been grown instead of constructed. Strange lights pulsed along their surfaces in patterns that hurt to look at. Captain Tay gripped his chair as alarms screamed throughout the ship. Evasive pattern delta. "Hyun, are they communicating?" "Yes, sir," Hyun said. His voice shook. "They're sending another message." The largest alien ship moved forward. It was twice the size of Earth's biggest battlecruiser. A weapon on its front began to glow with blue light. "Final warning," the alien message said. The translation was better this time, as if they had learned human language. "Retreat or die. You have 1 minute." Tay looked at his crew. They were young and scared and far from home. But they all looked back at him with determination. Nobody suggested running. "Hyun, send them our answer," Tay said calmly. "What should I say, sir?" "Tell them we said no. Tell them if they want to fight, they've found one." The message was sent. For a moment, nothing happened. Tay imagined the aliens reading it, confused by human stubbornness. They probably expected begging or negotiation. They got neither. The alien dreadnought fired first. A beam of pure energy cut through space where the horizon's edge had been seconds before. Tay's pilot, a young woman named Rena, threw the ship into a spin that would have crushed normal humans. But humans had learned to build ships that matched their crazy flying styles. "Return fire," Tay shouted. "Everything we have." The horizon's edge was a research ship, but it had been fitted with weapons during the past weeks. Railguns mounted on its hull fired solid metal slugs at incredible speed. Missiles streaked toward the alien fleet. It wasn't much, but it was something. The railgun rounds hit an alien cruiser. Its shields glowed bright blue, then flickered. Then they failed. The metal slugs punched through the alien hull and tore it apart from the inside. Atmosphere vented into space. The cruiser went dark and began to drift. On Earth, Admiral Jin watched the battle through transmitted data. When he saw the alien shields fail, he smiled. "They can be hurt," he said. "Send the fleet now." Across human space, the response began. 200 warships that had been hiding behind planets and asteroids activated their engines. They had been waiting for this moment, waiting to see if humanity's weapons could actually damage the aliens. Now they knew. The first fleet jumped into the battle zone led by Admiral Jin's flagship, the Indomitable. It was Earth's most powerful warship, armed with weapons designed by the best military minds humanity had. Leading the weapons team was Sergeant Dae Kim, an engineer who never slept and always had grease on his hands. "All ships, this is Admiral Jin." The old man's voice echoed across every human vessel. "These aliens think we're weak. They think one threat is enough to make us run. Show them they're wrong. Show them what humans do when you back us into a corner. Attack! 200 ships open fire at once!" The space between the two fleets became a storm of light and death. Railguns fired, plasma cannons burned. Nuclear missiles with warheads powerful enough to crack asteroids flew toward alien targets. The aliens adapted quickly. Their formation shifted. Their shields strengthened. But they had made one critical mistake. They thought this would be easy. They thought humans would be like other species they had conquered, rational enough to know when they were beaten. Humans weren't rational. Not when their homes were threatened. Not when their families were at risk. Humans were the species that had survived ice ages and plagues and their own worst instincts. They were survivors. And survivors don't quit. Lieutenant Nari Song flew her fighter off the carrier Resilience. She led a squadron of 12 small, fast ships. Their job was simple and suicidal. Get close to the alien dreadnought and hurt it. "Eagle Squadron, follow my lead," Nari said over the radio. She pushed her fighter to maximum speed. Behind her, 11 other ships followed. The alien dreadnought saw them coming. Point defense weapons fired thousands of rounds per second. Space filled with tracers and explosions. Nari's wingman died first, his fighter simply disappearing in a ball of fire. Then another. And another. "Keep going," Nari shouted. Sweat ran down her face. Her hands gripped the controls so hard they hurt. 6 fighters left, 5, 4. But she was close now. Close enough to see details on the dreadnought's hull. Close enough to see a weak point where the armor was thinner near the reactor section. "Fire everything," Nari screamed. She and her 3 remaining pilots released every missile they had. The weapons streaked toward the dreadnought's exposed core and detonated. For a second, nothing happened. Then the dreadnought's reactor lost containment. A miniature sun was born in the middle of the alien fleet. The explosion was so bright it would be seen from planets millions of miles away. The dreadnought simply ceased to exist. 6 alien ships nearby were caught in the blast and destroyed. Nari's fighter tumbled through space. Its systems half melted from the heat. But she was alive. 2 of her squadron mates were alive. They had traded 9 lives for 7 alien ships. It was a terrible trade, but it was the kind of trade humans understood. The battle raged for 8 hours. It was chaos and violence and death. Humans died by the hundreds, but aliens died too, and that was what mattered. For the first time in their history, the aliens faced an enemy that would not break. On the Indomitable, Sergeant Day worked at a console while explosions rocked the ship around him. He was trying to hack into the alien communication network using pieces of code captured from their signals. If he could disrupt their coordination, it might give human ships an edge. Come on, Day muttered. His fingers flew across the keyboard. Around him, other engineers worked to keep the ship's weapons firing and shields operating. An alert flashed on his screen. He was in. The alien network was open to him, but he didn't have time to do much. He sent a simple command, a signal that told every alien ship that every other alien ship was an enemy. For 30 seconds, the alien fleet fell apart. Ships fired on each other in confusion. Their perfect formations broke. In those 30 seconds, human ships pressed their advantage and destroyed a dozen more alien vessels. Then the aliens figured out what had happened and fixed their network. But the damage was done. Their advantage was gone. Captain Tay's ship had taken heavy damage, but it was still fighting. "Status report," he shouted over the noise of alarms. "Shields at 15%, Yuna called back. Her station was on fire, but she ignored it and kept working. Weapons mostly offline. "But we're alive." "Then we keep fighting," Tay said, "until we can't anymore." But the aliens had had enough. 12 of their ships suddenly broke formation and jumped away into faster-than-light travel. They were retreating, fleeing, running from humans. The remaining alien ships tried to follow, but human weapons cut them down. By the time the battle ended, the alien fleet was gone. Some had escaped. Most had not. Admiral Jin stood on his bridge and looked at the debris field that had been a fleet. 47 human ships were destroyed or damaged beyond repair. Thousands of good people were dead, but the aliens had come with 73 ships and left with only 12. "Send a message to all ships," Jin said quietly. "Well done. You've shown the galaxy that humanity doesn't scare easily. Now we need to make sure they remember this lesson." "What do we do about the ones that escaped?" someone asked. Jin smiled coldly. "We let them go. They'll run back to their masters and tell them what happened here. They'll tell them that humans don't surrender, and maybe, just maybe, they'll think twice before threatening us again." But Jin knew the truth. This was just the first battle. The aliens would come back with more ships, more weapons, more determination. And when they did, humanity would have to be ready. On Earth, Commander Bora analyzed every piece of data from the battle. She studied alien tactics and weapons and shield technology. She was looking for weaknesses, ways to hurt them even more. "They're strong," she said to her staff, "but they're not invincible. They rely on their technology too much. They think in patterns. We can use that against them." "How?" someone asked. Bora looked at a map showing alien territory. "We don't wait for them to come to us again. We take the fight to them. We find their bases, their shipyards, their supply lines, and we burn them all." It was a dangerous plan, an aggressive plan, but it was the human way. When someone punched you, you punched back harder. The survivors of the first battle gathered at a massive space station called Bastion 9. They needed repairs and rest. They needed time to mourn their dead. But they didn't have much time. The war had just begun. Captain Tay walked through the station's corridors and saw the faces of other captains and crews. They looked tired and hurt, but they didn't look defeated. That was impossible to kill in humans, that stubborn refusal to accept defeat. "Captain Tay," Admiral Jin called out, "walk with me." They moved through the busy station together. Everywhere, people worked to repair ships and reload weapons. Nobody was resting. Nobody could afford to. "What happens now?" Tay asked. Jin stopped and looked out a viewport at the stars. "Now we show them what happens when you threaten humanity." The Retribution fleet gathered in the shadow of Bastion 9. 60 warships, the best humanity had left after the first battle. Each one had been repaired and upgraded with lessons learned from fighting the aliens. Each crew was hungry for revenge. Admiral Jin stood in the war room with his senior officers. Commander Bora projected a hologram of the Epsilon Eridani system in the center of the table. A gas giant dominated the display, surrounded by orbital structures. "This is it," Bora said. "The alien shipyard. Our reconnaissance drones got close enough to scan it before being destroyed. What we found is disturbing." The hologram zoomed in. The orbital complex was massive, stretching for hundreds of miles. Dozens of alien ships in various stages of construction hung in the building frames like insects in a web. "How many ships?" Captain Tay asked. His Horizon's Edge had been rebuilt as a light cruiser, armed with more weapons than most destroyers. "At least 200, Bora replied. "Maybe more. If we let them finish construction, they'll have enough firepower to destroy every human colony in one campaign." Dr. Yuna studied the hologram with worried eyes. She had been studying alien technology captured from the first battle. Their construction methods are incredibly fast. They're using automated systems controlled by a central AI network. If we can disrupt that network, the entire facility might shut down. "That's a big if," said Sergeant Day. He leaned on a cane now, his legs still healing from injuries in the last fight. But he refused to stay behind. "Their network security is unlike anything we've seen. I've been working on a virus that might work, but I'll need to upload it directly to their core systems." "That means a boarding action," Admiral Jin said. He looked at Day. "You're not healed enough for that kind of mission." "With respect, sir, nobody understands their systems like I do," Day replied. "If we're doing this, I'm going." Commander Nari entered the room. She had been promoted after her heroics in the last battle. Now she commanded 3 fighter squadrons. "My pilots are ready," she said. "Just tell us what you need destroyed." Jin studied the hologram for a long moment. Then he began issuing orders. "Nari, your fighters will hit their power nodes first. Create confusion. Tay, the Horizon's Edge, will lead a strike team through the construction frames. Use the structures as cover. Day, you'll board with the Indomitable's Marines and upload your virus. The rest of the fleet will engage their defense ships and keep them busy. What about reinforcements? Someone asked. If they call for help, then we'll deal with it, Jin interrupted. But I don't think they'll have time. We're going to hit them fast and hard. No warnings, no mercy. Just like they showed us, the fleet prepared to jump. Aboard the Horizon's Edge, Captain Tay walked through his ship and checked on his crew. They looked different now, harder. The first battle had changed them all. They had seen friends die. They had learned that the universe was not kind or fair. Una sat at her science station, running final checks on the equipment. Are you scared? Tay asked her. Terrified, she admitted. But I keep thinking about Earth, about my family. If we don't stop these aliens here, they'll come for our homes. So yes, I'm scared. But I'll do my job anyway. That was the human way, scared but stubborn. The Retribution fleet made the jump to Epsilon Eridani. For a few seconds they were nowhere and everywhere at once. Then reality snapped back and they were there. The alien shipyard filled the view screens. It was even bigger than the holograms had shown. The gas giant behind it glowed orange and red, making the construction frames look like a metal city hanging in space. Sir, sensors show 37 alien warships in defensive positions, Hyun reported. And they've seen us. They're moving to engage. All ships begin attack, Jin ordered. Show them what we came for. The Retribution fleet accelerated toward the shipyard. The alien defense ships moved to intercept, but Commander Nari's fighters got there first. 108 small, fast ships streaked past the capital vessels and headed straight for the facility's power nodes. Eagle Squadron, follow my lead, Nari said. Her voice was calm despite the danger. She had learned something important in the last battle. Staying calm kept you alive. Panic killed. Alien point defense weapons filled space with fire, but Nari's pilots were ready. They wove through the barrage in patterns that seemed random, but were actually carefully coordinated. Humans were good at improvisation. It was one of their greatest strengths. Nari's missiles hit the first power node and it exploded in a shower of sparks. Sections of the shipyard went dark. Emergency lights flickered on, casting strange shadows across the alien structures. Good hit, one of her pilots shouted. Moving to Target 2. The alien defense fleet finally reached the human ships. The space battle began in earnest. Ships from both sides exchanged fire at distances where a single hit could kill. Admiral Jin's Indomitable traded shots with an alien battlecruiser, shields flaring with each impact. Captain Tay guided the Horizon's Edge into the construction frames. The metal structures provided cover from the alien weapons, but they also made navigation deadly. One wrong move and his ship would crash into a building frame at high speed. Steady, Tay said to his pilot. Nice and easy. They slipped between two construction berths where half-built alien ships hung like sleeping giants. Tay ordered his weapons to fire at the ship's exposed reactors. Explosions rippled through the frames. Alien vessels that would have terrorized human worlds died before they were even finished. Captain, I'm detecting movement, Una warned. Automated defense drones. Hundreds of them. Small attack craft swarmed out of hidden bays in the shipyard structure. They were controlled by the same AI that ran the facility, programmed to protect the complex from intruders. All weapons target those drones, Tay ordered. Don't let them get close. The Horizon's Edge's guns blazed. Drones exploded by the dozens, but more kept coming. It was like fighting a swarm of angry insects. You could kill hundreds and there were always more. On the Indomitable, Sergeant Day stood in the launch bay with 20 Marines. They wore heavy armor and carried weapons designed for boarding actions. The ship shook as it took fire from the alien battlecruiser. Listen up, Day said to the Marines. Our job is simple. Get to the central hub, upload the virus, and get out. Don't be a hero. Don't try to explore. Just do the job and come home. Dr. Junho stood nearby. He was a linguist, not a soldier, but he understood alien computer systems better than anyone. I'll guide you through their security protocols, he said nervously. Just keep me alive long enough to do it. That's the plan, Day replied with a tight smile. The boarding craft launched from the Indomitable and raced toward the shipyard's central hub. Alien weapons tracked them, but the Indomitable's suppressing fire kept most of the shots from connecting. Most, but not all. One boarding craft took a direct hit and disappeared in a flash of light. Day's craft made it through. They crashed into a docking port on the hub's outer structure. The Marines cut through the door with plasma torches and rushed inside. The interior of the alien facility was strange and unsettling. The corridors were too wide and the lighting was wrong. Everything had an organic quality, like being inside a living creature. Day pushed away his discomfort and focused on the mission. "Junho, which way?" he asked. The linguist checked a portable scanner. "Left corridor, then up 3 levels. The main computer core should be in the center of the structure." They moved quickly through the alien halls. Twice they encountered automated security systems, mechanical guards that attacked without warning. The Marines destroyed them, but not before losing 2 men. Day's leg hurt. Every step sent pain shooting up his side. But he kept moving. People were counting on him. Earth was counting on him. They reached the computer core. It was a massive room filled with strange technology that hummed and glowed. Junho immediately went to work, connecting his equipment to the alien systems. "This is incredible," Junho muttered as he worked. "Their processing power is orders of magnitude beyond ours. But the architecture is vulnerable to certain types of viral code. I think Day's virus will work." "How long?" Day asked. Outside, he could hear fighting getting closer. The aliens had noticed the intrusion. 5 minutes. Maybe less. "Work fast," Day said. He positioned the Marines at the doorways. "Nobody gets past us." The aliens came in a rush. Not biological creatures, but more automated guards, taller and heavier than the ones they had fought before. The Marines opened fire, their weapons filling the hallway with light and noise. Day joined the fight despite his injury. He couldn't shoot as well as the Marines, but every gun helped. An alien guard broke through the line and charged at Junho. Day threw himself in its path. The guard's weapon struck him across the chest, breaking ribs and sending him flying. But he had bought Junho the seconds he needed. "Virus uploaded," the linguist shouted. "It's spreading through their network now." "Fall back," Day gasped. Pain made it hard to breathe. "Everyone back to the ship." The Marines grabbed Day and Junho and ran. Behind them, the facility began to shake. The virus was working. Automated systems were receiving contradictory orders. Construction arms started tearing at their own projects. Defense drones turned on each other. Outside, the effect was even more dramatic. The entire shipyard descended into chaos. 6 months had passed since the raid on the alien shipyard. The war had settled into a pattern of raids and counter-raids, ambushes and retreats. Neither side could gain a decisive advantage. But something strange was happening across alien space. Commander Bora's intelligence network had picked up unusual signals. She stood in Admiral Jin's office on Earth, showing him reports from deep-cover reconnaissance drones. "The aliens are fighting among themselves," she said. "Not major battles, but there's definitely internal conflict." Jin studied the data. "What does it mean?" "It means they're not as united as we thought," Bora replied. "I've been analyzing their communications and political structure. The aliens, they call themselves the Ascendancy, aren't a single species. They're a coalition of different races held together by fear and force. And we've broken that fear," Jin said, understanding. "We proved they can be beaten." "Exactly. Some of their subject species are starting to ask questions. If humans can fight back successfully, why can't they? The Ascendancy's entire power structure is built on the idea that resistance is futile. We've shown that's a lie." Jin leaned back in his chair. For the first time in months, he allowed himself a small smile. "So what you're telling me is that by refusing to surrender, we've destabilized their entire civilization?" "In essence, yes. But there's more." Bora pulled up another report. "We've detected communications from several Ascendancy worlds expressing support for humanity. Not military support, but moral support. They're watching us fight for our freedom, and it's giving them hope. Can we use this? Maybe, but we need to be careful. If we're seen as trying to break up the Ascendancy, they might unify against us. But if we just keep fighting for our own freedom, let them draw their own conclusions." Jin nodded. "We become an example, an inspiration, and sometimes that's more powerful than any weapon." On the medical station orbiting Mars, Sergeant Day walked without his cane for the first time. His recovery had been long and painful, but human medicine had advanced considerably during the war. Necessity had driven innovation. Dr. Yuna visited him in the rehabilitation center. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a ship," Day admitted. "But I'm alive." "That's more than a lot of people can say. You saved Junho's life, saved the whole mission. You're a hero." Day shook his head. "I'm not a hero. I'm just an engineer who got lucky." The real heroes are the ones who didn't come back. Yuna understood that feeling. She had lost friends too. The war had taken a terrible toll on everyone. But there was work to be done. The military wants you back. They're building new ships with the technology we've learned. They need your expertise, I know, Day said. I've already been reviewing the designs. We're making ships faster, tougher, meaner than anything we had before. Give us another year and we'll have a fleet that can match the Ascendancy ship for ship. Will it be enough? It has to be. Commander Nari had been promoted again. Now she commanded an entire carrier group, with responsibility for over 300 fighters and their pilots. She was only 26 years old, but the war had aged everyone quickly. She stood on the bridge of her carrier, the Phoenix rising, and watched her pilots train. They flew practice maneuvers against drones programmed to mimic alien tactics. Every day they got better, faster, more deadly. Her second-in-command, a veteran pilot named Taiho, joined her. The new recruits are improving, he said. But they're still green. We're all green, Nari replied. A year ago, none of us had fought in space combat. Now we're veterans. That's how fast this war has moved. Do you think we can win? Nari watched a fighter execute a perfect barrel roll. I think we don't have a choice. Winning is the only option, because losing means extinction. Captain Tay's Horizon's Edge patrolled the border regions, hunting alien scouts and preventing infiltration. His crew had become skilled at detecting the aliens' cloaking technology. It wasn't perfect invisibility. It left traces that careful sensors could detect. Contact, Hyun reported, bearing 270, single alien scout ship. Intercept course, Tay ordered. Don't let it escape. The Horizon's Edge accelerated. The alien scout tried to run, but Tay's ship was faster. They closed the distance quickly. Tay ordered a warning shot, hoping to disable the scout and capture it intact. Instead, the alien ship self-destructed. They'd rather die than be captured, Yuna observed. That tells us something about their culture. Failure is not acceptable. Good, Tay said grimly, because they're going to fail a lot more before this war is over. At the Unified Earth Council, political debates raged about the war's direction. Some representatives wanted to push for immediate peace. Others wanted to take the offensive more aggressively. Admiral Jin listened to both sides, then offered his own assessment. We're at a crossroads, he told the council. The Ascendancy's leadership has been silent for 3 months. No ultimatums, no demands, no threats. That means they're deciding what to do about us. We can wait for their decision or we can force their hand. What do you suggest? The council president asked. I suggest we open a channel for negotiation, but we negotiate from a position of strength, not weakness. We've proven we can fight them. Now we prove we can talk to them. But we do it on our terms. And if they refuse, then we keep fighting. But I don't think they'll refuse. They're losing control of their own empire. They need this war to end as much as we do, maybe more. The decision was made. Commander Bora would lead a small diplomatic team to a neutral location and attempt to open negotiations. It was risky, but war was always risky. While diplomacy began, the military continued preparing. Earth's shipyards worked around the clock. New vessels rolled out of construction bays weekly. These ships incorporated lessons learned from months of combat. They were faster, better armed, and tougher than the ships that had fought in the first battle. Sergeant Day returned to duty and immediately threw himself into work. He led a team of engineers developing new weapon systems. His focus was on anti-shield technology. The aliens' energy shields were powerful, but Day had discovered they had harmonic frequencies that could be exploited. If we can hit them with the right frequency, he explained to Admiral Jin, their shields won't just fail. They'll amplify our weapons' power and tear the ship apart from the inside. How soon can you weaponize this? We already have. 20 ships are being fitted with the new systems now. We'll test them in the Tau Ceti sector next week. The test went better than expected. A small human force engaged an alien patrol and destroyed 5 enemy ships without taking any casualties. The aliens' greatest defensive advantage had been neutralized. Word of the test spread quickly through both fleets. Human morale soared. Alien confidence wavered. The psychological impact was enormous. Commander Bora's diplomatic team made contact with Ascendancy representatives at a space station built specifically for the negotiations. The station was located exactly between human and alien territory, a symbolic middle ground. Bora led a small group that included Dr. Yuna and Dr. Junho. They were unarmed and accompanied by only a small security detail. It was a show of good faith. But 3 human warships waited 1 jump away, ready to intervene if anything went wrong. The Ascendancy sent 3 representatives from different species. Each looked completely different from the others, confirming Bora's intelligence that the Ascendancy was a multi-species coalition. They wore elaborate robes and carried themselves with an air of superiority that irritated Bora immediately. The lead alien spoke through a translation device. "We are here to discuss the terms of your surrender." Bora almost laughed. "You must have misunderstood. We're here to discuss the terms of peace, not surrender." "Never surrender. You cannot win this war," the alien said. "We have resources beyond your imagination. Fleets you haven't seen, weapons we haven't used. And yet here you are talking to us instead of attacking." Bora replied calmly. "If you were truly confident in your superiority, you wouldn't be negotiating. You'd be conquering. So let's skip the posturing and have an honest conversation." The aliens exchanged glances. Bora could see she had surprised them. They weren't used to species that talked back. Dr. Yuna stepped forward with a portable display. "We've been studying your civilization. We know about the internal conflicts. We know about the subject species questioning your authority. We know your empire is more fragile than you'd like us to believe." "You know nothing," one of the other aliens hissed. "We know enough," Bora said. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to recognize humanity's sovereignty over our current territory. You're going to establish a neutral buffer zone between our spaces. And you're going to stop threatening us. In return, we won't actively support rebellions in your territory. You're in no position to make demands, aren't we?" Bora pulled up tactical displays showing recent battles. "Every engagement in the last 2 months, we've won. Your losses are mounting. Your subject species are watching. How long before they decide they can do what we did? How long before your entire empire falls apart?" The negotiations continued for 3 days. Sometimes they were tense. Sometimes they nearly broke down. But slowly, grudgingly, the aliens began to realize that humanity would not be easily beaten or intimidated. On the 3rd day, the lead alien made a surprising admission. "Different from other species we've encountered." The negotiations took 2 more weeks. Commander Bora and her team lived on the neutral station, working through complex details with the Ascendancy representatives. Every clause had to be carefully worded. Every agreement had to be clear. There was no room for misunderstanding when dealing with species that might interpret things differently. Admiral Jin visited the station on the final day. He brought Captain Tay, Dr. Yuna, and Sergeant Day with him. These were the people who had fought in the first battle, who had proven humanity wouldn't surrender. Their presence sent a message. Humanity negotiated but never forgot who it was. The final agreement was simple in concept but detailed in execution. The Ascendancy would recognize all human-controlled space as sovereign territory. A buffer zone 3 light-years wide would separate the 2 powers. Neither side would enter this zone with military vessels. Trade could occur, but only at designated points with proper inspections. Most importantly, there was a mutual defense clause. If either side violated the agreement, it would be considered an act of war. No more ultimatums, no more threats, just clear lines that everyone understood. "There's one more thing," Bora said during the final session. She placed a data drive on the table. "This contains evidence of every human world the Ascendancy was tracking before the war. We know you had targeting data for our colonies. If we sign this agreement and any human world is attacked by anyone, even pirates or raiders, we'll assume it was the Ascendancy testing our resolve. And we'll respond accordingly." The lead alien representative studied her with something that might have been respect. "You trust nothing." "We trust actions, not words," Bora replied. "You threatened to destroy our worlds. You attacked our ships. Why would we trust you now?" "A fair point," the alien admitted. "Very well. We accept these terms. But understand, we are making this agreement because it serves our interests. Not because we fear you." Admiral Jin smiled coldly. "You can tell yourself that if it helps. But we both know the truth. You fear us because we're unpredictable. Because we fight when logic says we should surrender. Because we're the first species you couldn't intimidate into submission." The treaty was signed. News spread across human space within hours. People celebrated in the streets of Earth and Mars and every colony world. The war wasn't over. Wars rarely truly end. But the immediate threat had passed. On the Phoenix Rising, Commander Nari gathered her pilots for a final briefing. The ceasefire takes effect in 6 hours, she told them. After that, we don't shoot unless shot at. But stay alert. Stay ready. Treaties are just words on paper. Our vigilance is what keeps us safe. Her pilots understood. They had learned hard lessons during the war. Peace was good, but preparedness was better. Captain Tay returned to the horizon's edge and found his crew celebrating quietly. They had survived. That was worth celebrating, but they also knew their jobs weren't done. The ship would continue patrolling the borders, watching for any sign of trouble. Yuna joined Tay on the bridge. They looked out at the stars together. "What do you think happens now?" she asked. "Now we build," Tay said. "We've proven we can fight. Now we prove we can do everything else. Science, exploration, trade. We show the galaxy that humans are more than just warriors. But we keep the weapons ready. Always. Peace through strength. It's the only way." On Earth, the Unified Earth Council held a ceremony honoring those who died in the war. Thousands of names were read aloud, each one representing someone who gave everything to protect humanity's future. Admiral Jin stood at attention throughout the ceremony, his face hard as stone. He had sent many of those people to their deaths. He would remember every single one. After the ceremony, Jin met with the council to discuss the future. "The Ascendancy has agreed to peace, but they're not our only concern," he said. "The galaxy is large. There are other species out there. Some might be friendly. Others might be worse than the Ascendancy. What do you recommend?" the council president asked. "I recommend we continue building our military, not to wage war, but to ensure we're never caught unprepared again. I recommend we establish a dedicated exploration fleet to find out what else is out there before it finds us. And I recommend we start reaching out to other species, the ones the Ascendancy has oppressed. They might become our allies. That could anger the Ascendancy. The agreement says we won't actively support rebellions. It doesn't say we can't trade with independent worlds. If some of those worlds happen to buy weapons from us, well, that's just commerce." The council understood what Jin was suggesting. Humanity would honor the letter of the treaty, while undermining the Ascendancy's control through economic and diplomatic means. It was a long game, but humans had learned to play the long game. Construction began on a new class of warships. These vessels incorporated everything humanity had learned during the war. They were powerful, fast, and designed specifically to fight against Ascendancy technology. The first ship off the line was named Defiance. Others followed: Tenacity, Courage, and Indomitable II, named after Admiral Jin's flagship that had been destroyed in the final weeks of fighting. Sergeant Day led the engineering teams building these ships. His injury had left him with a permanent limp, but his mind was sharper than ever. He personally oversaw the installation of every weapon system, every shield generator, every critical component. "These ships are our insurance policy," he told his teams. "If the Ascendancy ever threatens us again, these beauties will remind them why that's a bad idea." The ships were impressive. Each one was twice as powerful as the vessels that fought in the first battle. And humanity was building them by the dozen. Within 2 years, the human fleet would be larger and more capable than anything the Ascendancy had seen. Dr. Yuna and Dr. Junho established the Xenological Institute on Luna. Its mission was to study alien species and cultures, learning everything possible about potential friends and enemies. Knowledge was a weapon too, and humanity intended to be well armed with it. "We went into first contact completely blind," Yuna explained to students at the Institute's opening ceremony. "We didn't understand the Ascendancy's culture, their motivations, their capabilities. That nearly cost us everything. This institute exists to make sure we're never that ignorant again." The institute became a hub for humanity's brightest minds. They studied every scrap of information gathered during the war. They analyzed alien communications, technology, and tactics. They built profiles of every species in the Ascendancy coalition, looking for strengths and weaknesses. Commander Bora took a position at the institute, using her intelligence experience to guide the research. She also maintained Earth's spy network, which extended into Ascendancy space through various covert means. Information flowed constantly, giving humanity advance warning of any threats. 1 year after the treaty was signed, the first confirmed reports arrived. 3 species within the Ascendancy had declared independence. They cited humanity's example as inspiration. The Ascendancy had tried to suppress the rebellions but failed. Their military was still recovering from losses suffered fighting humans. "It's working," Bora told Admiral Jin. "The ascendancy is fracturing. Within 5 years, it might not exist in its current form." "Good," Jin said. "Let them collapse under their own weight. As long as they leave us alone, I don't care what happens to them." But Jin knew humanity had to be careful. A dying empire was dangerous. It might lash out in desperation, so the fleet remained on high alert, ready to respond to any threat. Commander Nari led a mission to make contact with one of the newly independent species. They called themselves the Tovan, and they had been under ascendancy control for 300 years. Their delegation met with human representatives on a border station. "We watched your war," the Tovan leader said through a translator. "We saw you refuse to surrender. It gave us hope that freedom was possible. When you won, we knew we had to try." "We didn't win," Nari replied honestly. "We fought to a stalemate. But sometimes that's enough. Sometimes just surviving is a victory. Will you help us? The ascendancy is weak now, but they will recover. When they do, they'll come for us." Nari chose her words carefully. "We can't fight your war for you. But we can trade. We can share knowledge. We can be friends. And sometimes friends help each other in unofficial ways." The Tovan understood. Within months, they were purchasing human weapons and technology. Not enough to violate the treaty, but enough to defend themselves. Other independent species did the same. Humanity was building a network of allies, slowly but surely. 5 years after the first battle, Captain Tay stood on the bridge of a new ship. He had been promoted to admiral and given command of the Second Fleet. The Horizon's Edge was now a museum ship, preserved as a reminder of where humanity's space navy had begun. His new flagship was the Defiant Spirit, one of the new Dreadnought-class vessels. It was 10 times more powerful than the Horizon's Edge had been. Standing on its bridge, Tay felt the weight of responsibility. This ship represented humanity's commitment to never being threatened again. Dr. Yuna visited him before his first patrol. "Hard to believe it's been 5 years," she said. "Feels like yesterday," Tay replied. "Sometimes I still see that first alien fleet appearing around us. Still feel that moment of fear before the fighting started. We've come a long way since then."